Timothy Wenger here from the Man Effect. Doing something unique today. We're doing a three-person interchange on the initiated man. And today I have Kenny, the Man Whisperer, with me, and Nick Clements, an author and world traveler who's done some really interesting stuff that I'm excited to dive into, specifically around the initiated man. Thank you guys so much for making time for me today.
Thank you.
Total pleasure.
So I'm sure with the three of us, we could probably talk about this for 4 hours, but we're going to try to keep it somewhat short here today. Mm-hmm. And initially, how I wanted to start it out was just, what is your definition of an initiated man? Let's just start at that foundation.
Stumped us already, yeah.
You know, the first thing that crossed my mind when you said that was pain. I just had pictures. I was born in Africa, and even around London, I see people with scars on their faces, or there was stuff that used to happen when I lived in Fiji. There's the whole circumcision thing. There are lots of... So the first thing that crossed my mind was pain and panic. And straight beyond that, I went beyond initiation. And for me, it's more about the way a man lives his life. And if an initiation of sorts, or initiation at the end of some sort of a journey, preferably held by cool, wise men, maybe old, maybe young, whatever. As long as they're cool and wise, then they're okay by me. Something like that. So he has been walked through a journey that they kind of provide and pass on. So he is more him, with good values and in alignment with, I guess, the laws of nature and life and goodness and stuff, and aware of his shadow. And then it's the way he lives his life. And for me, it's about the way a man lives his life rather than the actual initiation. But then I haven't had the experiences that Nick's had. I had a first communion, and that was as initiation as it initially started when I was a child.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell a little story. Basically, I was working with a Guatemalan shaman, as you do, and I had a conversation with him, and I was saying, you know, rites of passage for teenagers, you know, most important thing. And he kind of had this puzzled look on his face, and he said, "Why are you so fixated by rites of passage to manhood?" And I'm going, well, you know, it's really important, significant time in your life. And he said, yeah, but we all go through about 7 or 8 initiations. And I'm kind of going, okay, so what are those? And the shaman, he goes, find out. So,
and you're like,
so you know, I spend 2 years trying to find out, you know, and I put together 8 ceremonies, you know, from conception to birth. I go back, conception to death, and I go back to him and I say, look, you know, these are the ones that I've found. And him being a shaman, he says, they're useless. The one from boyhood to manhood is the only one that's important.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Whatever.
Beautiful.
But yeah, you know, initiated people have been afraid. You know, I can't be initiated if I've never been in pain, as you say, or in fear or vulnerable. And I think culturally we're missing that. You know, we want our role models to be strong and powerful and you know, rule the world, or you know, all these special things. You know, the powerful men that I know you've never heard of. Yeah, you know, because they aren't out there in the world. You know, they are being themselves.
They're living it in their lives rather than writing blogs about it.
Yeah,
and
hey.
For it. Putting on a good show. But I agree. That's the other thing that crossed my mind is one of my biggest, and I needed over the years to go back to it, was when was my life lost? When was I devastated? And it's been buried for so long because there were all sorts of glamorous stories of, you know, running from the Secret Service and refugee camps and all of these things which are supposed to be the things that break you. But what if you're broken before? What if it was a really bad paper cut at the age of 3? or something, whatever it was for you. And it took me a long time to go right back to it when my cousins were sent to boarding school. We all lived blissfully in Africa and Uganda, and life was really quite peachy. But that was my first loss, grieving, death, mourning. And that was the broken spirit. Life was never the same before. We carried on. Maybe it was avoided, not mentioned, lived beyond, survived, whatever. But that was my first devastation. For some people, it might be the death of someone. I don't know. But that was and I would call that an initiation. And I guess some might say losing virginity might be an initiation, whatever. But picking up from what Nick said, the pain is something that I needed to know and own and be with and feel through and live beyond, rather than know and glamorize and process and everything else. And I needed to own that pain, so that pain no longer owns or restricts me. And for me, being a man is knowing and feeling all my pain and all my suffering and how evil I could possibly be, and all that dark stuff, as well as the light stuff, and knowing the both, and in the moment, between those two extremes, choosing what's true and expressing that part of me. So it's not being good or right or a smart ass man. It's just, and also being man enough to show up to the world and take part bigger, rather than all restricted by my past pain. And I won't go there and I won't open that up. To me, that's being an initiated man, is showing up ready to die again, quite fearlessly, and probably expecting to fly rather than to die.
I see. And I think, you know, there's an aspect of that which is disappointment, that, you know, an initiated man has been disappointed. You know, things haven't gone his way. And instead of going victim, oh my God, it's terrible. You know, these disasters have happened in my life. They restrict me. It was all my parents' fault. It was my brother's fault. You know, whoever you want to blame. Yeah, you've got to step through that, and that is a very difficult place to go to. And you've got to step through that to the point where you say, I just am so disappointed by that. But, you know, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful lesson. And I'm going to have to assimilate that lesson, move through it, eat it up, and move on. And I think, you know, a lot of men at the moment are stuck in blame and shame.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, they're getting blamed, and they're also ashamed of who they are. And those two are really harming and damaging the movement of men towards, you know, being initiated, being proper men.
I think what's really important too is there seems to be this, when you say initiate a man or I'm a man, like there's this assumption that there was this one day, like there was a line in the sand and you crossed that line, you know, and like now you're good, in the sense of like, okay, now I'm initiated, or now I'm a man. I'm no longer in pubescent stage. I'm now a man. We're good. And
are you saying it's like, now I've ticked the box, I'm man forever, job done, and I can just relax and get on with it? Because I know, and everyone knows, so, you know, we're safe.
Yeah. So I feel like even though it's not overtly spoken, like there seems to be a, hey, like this is just, once you're a man, you're good, or once you've done some work, you're good. And in my own experience, it's not, the castle isn't built by one brick, you know, it's a constant journey of one brick a day, or 2 bricks a day, of building that castle. And for me, that's been a process that I've observed in my own life that it demystified, I think, a lot of it. Because when I was young, I was like, I'm going to be a man one day. And then now I look back and I'm like, I'm a man, but I'm still becoming more of a man, you know? Yeah. So.
An ongoing journey. So far, we pretty much talked about our own experiences. I wonder about the constructed experiences. I mean, there's organizations like the Mankind Project, and they have their initiation. And I remember when I did training in the early 2000s, I think it was, one of my friends said, oh yeah, that's all well and good. Posh boys, privileged, running through the forest naked or whatever it is you're doing and scaring each other because there haven't been real life experiences. And he was kind of putting me off, and he wanted me to stay with him and hang out and just, you know, kick about like silly asses. So that was his. And there's a certain amount of truth in that. And if that's what's available, or that's what it takes, and it brings some good, wonderful. Plus, it does really, really work for a lot of people, especially if that's their first training. And a lot of men are looking for something these days. I wonder, Nick, because you've been not only around the Western workshops and stuff and influencing the Western workshops, but what did you see set up with the people that you lived and the initiations that have been going on for generations, I'm guessing?
I mean, I think, you know, I you know, made a documentary film about a male circumcision ritual that happens once every 20 years. And, you know, the preparation for that was 3 years. So the community as a whole goes, the initiation of boys into manhood is so important, so vital for our culture, that we're prepared to spend 3 years of our time preparing to do this huge ceremony for these people.
That's incredible.
They understand who they are, you know, and even, you know, I'm there, I'm taking part, you know, involved in all of that, and then I say, okay, so it's all done, you know, we've done the final gig, you know, everybody was eating loads of food, got pissed, and they go, no, we've got another 12 years to go, man. You know, we'll look after this boy for 12
that is so held by the community, given space to give energy to this, rather than, I guess, with a lot of people I work with, it's I need to make lots of money because then I'm powerful and I can stay away from the riffraff, and I need to get the right trainers, and it's all about money and competition and whatever. What you're talking about is 3 years of being with, knowing myself, and then there's the initiation, and like you said before, and then the journey begins in living it, is what I've got from what you've said.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, you know, that we, like you say, we focused on the superficial and the material goods. What they're saying is, for you to become a human being, you have to let all that go, and you have to say, what is important? You know, what is important for me is love, you know, and being supported and held by other people. All of it, you know, the culture that we've created is so alone and fearful and lonesome. And what they were doing was showing, you know, this is a collective thing, and it has to be. You know, we're all moaning, we're all saying, you know, oh my God, you know, everybody's, you know, a lot of men are, you know, on their own in front of the computer screens, like all the three of us, and it's like, yeah, you know, so what is the alternative, and are you prepared to pay the price? Are you prepared to pay the price in terms of time, effort, skills, all of those things?
Yeah. Why do you think there's been a decay in, let's just say, Western societies towards the initiation towards men? Because it seems like in non-Western societies there seems to be more of a appropriation towards it or something. Where do you think that decay comes from?
For me, it came about with the Industrial Revolution. You know, that you know, before that, you know, your name was, you know, I'm Nick, the son of Nick, the son of Eric, the son of, you know, and I could recite, you know, thousands of names back to you. And what the Industrial Revolution did was take that family orientated thing and blew it apart. You know, because men had to go to the factories, the women had to do other jobs, you know, and the whole thing kind of got dissipated. And, you know, it's still in us. We still have it. We still have a longing for it. You know, I think,
absolutely.
You know, if you know, you're really deep and honest and discussing stuff properly, you know, people go, I long, you know, my heart aches for this, you know, on occasions, and that is to be in community. You know, what initiation is about is, you know, initiates you into your ability to hold space for other people.
Yeah, that's good. What do you think, Kenny?
I totally agree. And I also wonder on a very different level whether a lot of people don't like men or fear masculine men. The way that men are portrayed in the media generally is belittling, a bit stupid, a bit of a mummy's boy, stuff like that. Advertising, you don't get blokes, you get hairless, very young looking kind of prepubescent, and it's good for marketing because, you know, you take your hair off, you wear these clothes, you do that, buy all these products, etc. But do people like men? Are people scared of men? I wonder how many people, for example, who were locked up is because they're just scary in society and they make a lot of man noise and they're out of control as far as our suppression's concerned, and therefore we need to remove them so everyone's safe and we are all protected. But on the other hand, also, would it be fair to call a lot of very young, out of control people men? Because maybe they're just grown up, unruly, powerful boys, and they don't have a man bone in them because they're not really self-aware. They're not really feeling the consequences of their actions, or maybe they don't even fit into community. Like Nick said, it's about being part of and serving community, and maybe they're the destructive rebels in community.
Yeah, and it almost makes me think too, like, not that anyone's responsible per se for this decay, but it's like, why has there been such a struggle to evolve to the society and adapt still an initiation process? Because why did I have to go to a men's weekend to even learn about this stuff? Like, it's kind of weird to me. It's like, where is that? Why is that decayed in my immediate culture where we just don't talk about this kind of stuff?
Well, I can say why I did mine. I don't remember when it was. It was a long time ago, and I found the Mankind Project. And initially, I thought, thank God there is something for blokes alone, because personal development and self-growth and, you know, even spiritual, a lot of explorations is female heavy. And especially I have found being a straight male, and it's female dominated, where they want an aware bloke. It's like, I want to do my work and I want to get messy and not make friends, and I want to gain something from this, and meanwhile I'm getting attention that I don't really want, and I have to extend my male head into their language and their rules. So it was great. There's the thing for blokes, and I get to check myself. I've been running my own men's groups for quite a few years by then, and I wanted to check myself to see, have I missed something? Am I a blagger? Am I hiding behind being a leader? Is my ego in the way? Am I too smart with my tongue that I'm manipulating? You know, what have I missed? What could I gain? Where can I check in? And I remember before going to, when I left my business and I moved to Fiji, and it was my leaving home and breaking the spell of being a refugee running for my life. Every country that I changed planes in, I did a couple of weeks. And as I was leaving, I thought, I want to make sure that I'm carrying as little baggage and I'm as prepared as possible. And I thought, well, where do I go? What do I do? And I knew Nick's and my mutual friend, William. And William talked about Fintorn. A lot of things came from the Fintorn Foundation. I was working with both William and Andrew Ferguson, who ran the Breakthrough Center. And again, that was about spirituality in business, and it was groundbreaking in the late 80s. So he was from the Fintorn Foundation. And I thought, great, I will go to Fintorn. I will do their experience week, and I'll check in, because I don't want to be right or liked. I want to be wrong and see where my wounds are and see where see things from the outside, get a jolly good evaluation, grow a bit, sort it a bit, and then fly off. So where do we go? I wanted to check myself. I wanted to grow and improve amongst people that I respected and wanted to be like. And I found that very difficult, because I didn't respect most men around me, and I didn't want to be like most men around me. And I realized, irrespective of whether I'm a good act and people buy it, I don't. I needed to be self-respecting and take this man out, whether other people like him or not.
Yeah, it's a really interesting process, isn't it? Because it's like, you know, we kind of, you know, men go down the pub, and that's kind of accepted behavior, and you know, I did in the late 80s, I did a community building program with Scott Peck, and you know, I participated in the first all men's workshop, 50 men in Milton Keynes, and we sat for 3 days in Milton Keynes and did group, you know, process, and first time that, you know, it was just men, and all of this stuff was there. And the beginning was, you know, men don't do this, men don't cry, you know, we're all failing, we're crap, you know, all that kind of stuff, and then at a certain point it changed, and it changed because we suddenly went, shit, this man sitting next to me is saying my story. He's not, you know, he's not telling his, he's telling my story. Because it's so close to me. You see it? And suddenly we were all going, every man is telling the same story. Every man is going, I'm vulnerable, I didn't get this, I didn't get that, all of those things. And that was just such a wonderful place to be, because it took all the judgments of other men. You know, there were men there sat in that circle that I was looking at going, wanker, you know, like, guy's an idiot, you know, he doesn't know what he's talking about, you know, come on. You know. And then by the third day, I'm going, I fucking respect every single one of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who you are. And that's all it takes, 3 days.
Yeah. I love the beforehand judgments and then the after, like, experience of those human beings. For me, it's always been like, there's this one person I absolutely despise for no reason, and then at the end they're like my best friend, like,
exactly,
out of everyone.
Always like, happens.
Every time I'm wrong.
And you know, what does the initiated man do is he starts from a different place. You know, he starts from a place of, I can handle you, you're lovely, you know. And when I end up with someone that I'm making judgments about, I've got to go to them. I've got to go to them and sit at their feet and go, tell me about yourself. You know, in order to tell all that shit. That's what the initiated man does.
Yeah.
And what initiation programs do you run here, Nick?
I kind of make them up as I go along, but you know, I do whatever's needed. You know, people come to me. You know, my process is that I exist. I don't particularly promote it in any great way, and sufficient people come to me to do whatever it is they want to do.
So you meet them where they are and work with individuals rather than having a program that people come to.
Yeah, we're kind of in discussion of maybe doing a program from it, but you know, it's mostly my work is just in response to a need. And that for me, you know, I think that's the authentic way of working, is rather than trying to, you know, say, yeah, I can cure you, you know, if I do this.
And without naming any names or anything like that, have you come across any weird or dodgy or nonsensical initiations?
Of course, you know, I mean, but you know, the initiated man understands that all of those initiations are valid. You know,
so again, it's the experience rather than is this right or wrong.
Yeah, you know, and I think you said earlier, you know, everything is okay. You know, even if you fuck it up and you make a mistake and do all those kind of things, it's still good, and it's great, you know. And I have, you know, made some huge mistakes in my life in terms of working with people, and you know, people have hated me and all that, you know, and great, fantastic. I learned from that. You know, I think that's the problem. Is you know, there is no answer. You know, I am not right, but you're also not wrong, you know, and you know, I think men, if we're going to generalize horribly, the immature man wants to come up with a solution to other people's problems.
Fix things.
So yeah, so many men go, you need to do this. I took these drugs, for Parkinson's, and they're great. You've got to do this. This is how you get cured. I don't know.
So
Go on.
So for people who are either starting this journey or midway for men, how would you encourage them to further their work then in this initiation process in their life?
I think for me, you have to genuinely incorporate it every day. What the Samburu were telling me was, this takes 3 years, but you've got to do every fucking day. And it's like, it's not good enough just to do it on the weekend. It's not good enough to just do it every now and again when you kind of feel like it. This is discipline. This is, there is a discipline to being an initiating person. I have to remember my teachers, everybody, I have to remember everything and keep it with me.
And so what would that look like for every day for a standard guy? Would that be facing his fears and his insecurities and his judgments? Like in a daily 9-to-5 work life, what would that look like?
It's accepting who you are. It's accepting your parents. It's accepting your ancestors. It's connecting to them, thanking them, and then building on that into your life or your friends, or remembering so many people I worked with someone yesterday, and they were going, I got no friends, I got nobody, there's nobody I can, and then I go, so what about the group that you've just told me about, where there's 12 people that you're working with? Oh yeah, but that's only in the afternoon. And so what about the other group, that you're doing all this stuff with?
Yeah.
No, and it's like the story that they had was, oh fuck, I'm so lonely, I'm so proud.
Yep.
They're not. You just got to take off the blinkers, stop repeating the same story. I always say to people, if you hear the same story coming in your head, please replace it or make even louder voice of, original thought. I want an original thought, not the old story. And that every day stepping towards the new story and trying to break the pattern of the way in which we've all been brought up and the way in which we are victims and all of those things. Come on, let's be real. You can't do that if you're in a job that is destroying you. If you're getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning and working through till 7 at night, and you're knackered. Yeah. So you have to, all of us have to change our patterns. All that, how easy it is.
And following on from what you said, it does feel that it for me is about being it in the moment. And if the moment is overwhelming, or the moment is toxic, then even in that moment, space for real me needs to be there, or come here, rather than survival me or poor me or what do you call it? Rebellious me or whatever. I need me to be in the space, not unconscious me playing the old scripts. And working with a lot of men, especially in the men's groups, is sometimes we ask which part is speaking now, because rather than it being the conscious man who's present, it might be some fear, or it might be some story, or it might be whatever. And the beauty of the groups and the beauty of community is people that know me, people that care, can say what's going on, or has something come up that needs to be that's saying, set me free so you can be more. And that's what we watch out for each other, and keep ourselves present and connected, not surviving, not competing, not any of that nonsense, because there's no need for it. And I know that when I'm in alignment, life takes care. And generally, so many men do not know the man inside them. They know all the doing parts and all the surviving parts, but they don't know that solid stillness. And that solid stillness generally can't fight the survival if it's not been processed or accepted or, you know, known enough that there can be volumes of with my survivor and my conscious man being turned up and down. But sometimes there needs to be a bit of an internal rejigging of who's running the show. Is the man in me able to run the show, or is there something that needs to be done to get me in alignment so that can happen? So there might be patterns that need to be released, like Nick says, but then stay on top of it. And it could quite simply be when I find myself lost in space on some fantasy, then the old me would be addicted to that or find some pain to fix to pretend to be in control. But I realized that I never find it. It's probably not there, and it's never worked anyway. So I stop and take a deep breath mid-thought and think, thank you for reminding me who I used to be. So that can be in the past, and there's space for me to be present and connected and respond to life. And there, for me, I've put so many things in my life that people, maybe the way that I sleep or exercise or meditate or, you know, the groups, whatever, just to support me, not just coming center and not surviving, but taking a step forward, engaging, growing, and living with purpose, which is another very big part of, for me, being a so-called initiated man, is I initiate myself by contributing to community beyond my fears and maybe beyond my past and fantasies.
Yeah. So we only have a few minutes left here. What I'd love to do is leave everyone who's watching with maybe 2 or 3 practical things that they can do to help them on their journey. Not the answers to their journey, but just like exercises to help check back in with themselves and continue. So for someone who is working that 9-to-5 grind and feels hopeless in life, what would be something that you would encourage them to help just mix it up a little and kind of recheck in with themselves? What would be an exercise that for them?
I think for me, you know, I do the river of life. So we start off with a drawing of from birth to now. And so you know, you have this river which is flowing from your birth all the way to the present moment. And you then draw or you write events. Because we forget. You know, a lot of us just forget and we focus on certain things and not others. And by drawing it and by writing it and by creating it, we remember who we are. You know, and we remember the people who died. We remember the people who were born. We remember the friends who were with it. You know, and it's really interesting because, you know, it's a very, very powerful tool. The great majority of people who I work with start crying at some point in that drawing because it brings up this memory of something suppressed. And
that's beautiful.
It's really important for us to understand the textured nature of what we go through and the wholeness of who we are, rather than this sad event followed by this one, by that.
That's beautiful. I love that. What would you say, Kenny?
I would say that one of the most important things for me is community, and thinking it, reading it, listening to the podcasts, to an extent, maybe even doing some workshops. It's not really community. So maybe engage and in the field, find out who you are, who you no longer need to be, and let that go. And maybe the leftovers over to who you are with different people. We were talking about projections on other people and how the most hated becomes the best friend. So for me, there's a lot that can be done. I mean, there are groups and online groups and things like that. But I love, so 3 places that I find people, I love that people go to, they come to my groups and they get to see who they are with other men. And in open groups, it's very different men. With closed groups, it's the same men. There may be some people that come as a one-off or come for a long time, but who are you with these different men that are passing? the Mankind Project New Warrior Training. It's quite different because it's set up. There are things that happen. They call it an initiation, and it is in a lot of ways, especially if it's the first time that people have done this. And that's very masculine. And on the feminine, I love Experience Week at Findhorn. Find out who you are and be seen by the other men. This is who I am, and this is who I really am, through my eyes, through my heart. See me. So this is who I can take out into the world. And also be supported, grow, communicate, and change. Because I think a lot of people think, I need to find who I am and do that, and then I'm sorted. Well, it's never going to happen. It's going to keep flowing and growing and changing and challenging and everything else. And how better to celebrate this, warts and all, than within community with people. And it may be individuals, it may be an organization, it doesn't matter where, but meet people that know you and will hold you in your fear as you grow and take part in the world. But for me, it pains me how isolated men can be, even if they're around a lot of people, just through being in their heads or not showing up with people. So it's get connected. Let's do it together, play nicely in the playground, and make it a very, very happy playground that we would really like to invite other people to and pass down the generations.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, there's a story about the crab. You know, if we take the animal, you know, that we're crabs, and that, you know, what happens is that their carapace, you know, their skeleton is on the outside rather than the inside. So as they grow, they press onto the inside of their carapace and their skin, and it becomes uncomfortable. You know, the itch happens because they're growing and they're changing and they're increasing, but the skeleton remains the same size. So what the crab has to do is he has to climb under a rock and he has to split his own skeleton apart and pull himself out of the previous existence and creates a new existence, which is the soft-shelled crab. You know, so vulnerable, he's under this rock, other things can eat him a lot quicker, you know, all those kind of things, and he has to harden off this new larger shell. And he can re-emerge and he can see and be seen as having changed. The other crabs will go, wow, you know, yeah, new crab, wow, look at that. Yeah? And then it starts itching again.
You tell the best stories.
That makes me like, I can just feel that.
We've got like that shell on that is no longer fitting. So fucking crack it open and step out.
And that is the moment I find the most important, most sacred moment, because part of the work is us knowing ourselves, or people having all the answers beyond blame. This is why it all makes sense. I don't need any more information. Nothing's changed. The other part is living differently. But there's a change between surviving with awareness and living with awareness. And that's where the shell breaks. It's totally vulnerable. I am now possibly going to die or go mad or never stop crying or just get, you know, my big one was I'm going to go bonkers and I'm going to be locked up in an asylum, rocking in a white thing, quite alive inside, but not able to say anything or do anything because it's so overwhelming. And it's holding someone as they go from the control and the known into the first steps of totally out of control and totally being present to life and ready to be led on. And it is so vulnerable, the first step. And then to stay there and to practice, what's beautiful is to see a man living on the other side, knowing who he was before, and not even remembering or relating to that because it's so in the past. And for me, community holds that. One good friend, one good person. And this is beyond the thinking of therapy and beyond the look everyone at how clever I am in the media or whatever it is. It's the silent living off. It's got nothing to do with anyone else apart from how I show up and how I respond.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
So, go on.
No, I was just curious. It looked like Nick wanted to chime in there too. In the middle.
Go, Nick.
You're good?
No, I can always chime in, no problem.
No, I think it's good. I just, obviously, like I said when we started, we could probably talk about this for quite a while. My biggest hope, though, is leaving this conversation that people watching have a sense of hope and have kind of a sense of new direction. And so with that in mind, is there anything else that you'd want to add in before we wrap it up here?
Go on, Nick.
Yeah, go on. It's for me, my own journey is now into eldership, what we call eldership. And, I thought eldership was wisdom, and knowledge and the accumulation of all this stuff, coming into the same place. But it's not. It's absolutely about pain and vulnerability. And if you want to really go there, you have to accept that that's going to be part of the journey, and, I have Parkinson's now, and, my great hero, Muhammad Ali, had Parkinson's. And he said, if you have Parkinson's, don't waste it. It's a privilege. It's a privilege. Wow. Because it destroys your ego every morning that you wake up.
Wow.
There's eldership for it. It's not obvious. This isn't what the standard kind of stuff that we get. Yeah. But it strikes a chord. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's intense.
I don't even remember the question now. I'm just so blown away by that.
Leaving the watchers with a sense of hope and direction.
I remember. For me, it's about pain. How bad does it need to get before you choose to make the change? And if it's not bad, then great. Make the change. Because sometimes people do it when they're desperate, when things are really at the end, and it's like, do it now, don't wait. If it's crossed your mind, take part. Live a better life.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Kenny and Nick, for giving me your time to discuss this, and I hope we can have some more conversations in the future. I'll be putting links to everyone's websites, and we are good. All right.
Wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Cool. Bye.